Now, we've looking at things like grammar and spelling checks before you submit a document. Those are great to do and should always be done. But there's a couple other checks you might want to run as well. So I want to show you what those are before you put a document out into the world. So let's take a quick look at accessibility checks first. So your accessibility is under my review tab, and it has check accessibility. And if I click on this, it's going to open up my accessibility assistant, and it's going to check a few things real quick. Depending upon how big your document is, it's going to depend upon how long it takes to run. You're going to notice that it gives you a couple of different areas to look at. In my case, this looks good, no issues are found, which is exactly what you want to see. However, if my background color, my foreground color was a little bit off, maybe it was a little bit too light, people might have a hard time seeing, especially if they're vision impaired. And so it would give you a warning under color and contrast. Likewise, if you had images that didn't provide alternative text that people needed to have so that, once again, if they're vision impaired and they're going to use a screen reader to read things back to them, the screen reader can't read an image, but can read the alternate text. And that's going to help it out. It has different things for tables and structures and different things like that. All these things that make reading a document, if you have some sort of either visual, hearing, etc. impairment, makes it much, much easier. So you always want to go through your accessibility assistant first to make sure your document is usable for everyone. Now, the next step that I always like to do is I like a word count. Now, the reason why is a lot of times in school, it says, oh, you have to be at least 1,200 words. You need to be 1,500 words or something like that. Well, in my word count, I get stats automatically on things like the number of pages, the words, how many characters, not including white spaces, all that type of stuff. So your professor might say, hey, you need to write a 1,200 word document. You know, that's about 200 words per page. So if you get 6 pages, you're okay. But you put some bullet points in to kind of take up some space. All they have to do is click on that and instantly, oh, I see you didn't write 1,200 words. You wrote 900 words or something like that. Okay. So this gives you a quick idea like, hey, did I get close to what the professor was asking? Really important. Now, conversely, when you're in business, they typically don't ask for a certain length. In fact, they like shorter. So that's one place where business is a little bit different. They're going to say, hey, 4 pages? No. I know my boss, 2 pages or less. Otherwise, he ain't reading it. So think about that. This is a stats. This gives you everything in one place. Of course, if I look down on the bottom left-hand side, I see page 1 of 4. So I know there's 4 pages. And because I ran the word count, it's going to put my words down there as well. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, though, is what's known as a readability score. You might go, well, what is readability? Well, readability is how easy can this be read? Like, what grade level is necessary for this to be read? By default, it's actually turned off. And so I'm going to show you how to turn it on. So we're going to go to File, go all the way down to the bottom where it says Options. And then we want to go to Proofing. In Proofing, we want to go to where the heading that says When Correcting Spelling and Grammar in Word. Notice you can even like turn off check spelling as you type. I would never do that. But maybe you have like a really old machine, you might want to. But I would never do that. Okay? I'm going to check Show Readability Statistics. This just lets me know it's going to be set up. Click OK. Then do Spelling and Grammar. Now remember, we've already checked this. There's no errors. But now it comes up and gives me my readability score. It's got the words and characters just like I had previously with my word count. But now it shows me my average sentences per paragraph, 1.6. This is actually very simple, okay? And a lot of people online, they like very few sentences per paragraph, just 2, 3, maybe less. This is following that kind of modus of operandi there. Number of words per sentence. The fewer the words in my sentences, the easier it is to read. Characters by word. Now, if I've got big $50 words that are made up of a dozen, 2 dozen characters, how easy is that going to be to read? Once again, the smaller number of the letters in a word, the easier the word is to read. Now, all those numbers you want to be working on smaller if you're writing to a general population or if you're writing maybe in a business environment. If you're writing in a school environment, you may want to reverse that. You might want to say, oh, I need to show complexity of my thought and increase the complexity because I'm smarter like this. I know my professors are smarter, my teachers are smart, and they're going to be able to take this information and be able to handle it. They expect me to be working at that higher level. So this is where knowing who your target audience is and knowing how to use that information. But if you go just a little bit further down, we have readability. And we have this known as a flesh reading ease, which is a 46.9. That's actually pretty easy. The higher the number, the easier it is to read. The flesh Kincaid grade level is an estimated grade level of what grade would you need to be in to read this document. Now, you might find it interesting that a lot of times your mainstream newspaper articles are actually written about a 4th or 5th grade level, and even something like the Wall Street Journal, which you would expect to be a much higher level, is looking at 8th to 9th grade level. So we're going to focus on what we need to be. I have a tendency to write large, complex paragraphs, so it's not uncommon for me to see 11, 12 grade or 12 plus. But when you're writing for college, when you're writing in papers to work on getting your degree, that's what's expected. So know your target audience, know who you're writing for, and what grade level to write for. And this will help you kind of take a look at things and say, ooh, do I need to change things? Am I way off? Because if you see yourself writing at a 5th or 6th grade level and you're trying to turn in something for a college paper, that's going to be a problem. But if you're writing for the mass population, they want it to be easy to read, easy to digest. That may not be so bad. So know your audience, know this ability to go in and check and say, hey, is this going to be effective for it? I know it will help you out, so make sure you use this. Now, one thing that makes your Word document easier to read by both breaking up instead of having so much text, as well as providing relevant information to your document, is the use of pictures. So we're going to show you how to add images into a Word document coming up next.